Today is definitely a chronic fatigue day. So I thought it would be a good idea to kind of talk through my journey with chronic fatigue and also the things that I do to help me get through each day. Let me start by telling you a little bit about my journey with fatigue. So it started with having a B12 deficiency. That was my original undiagnosed reason for fatigue. It was undiagnosed for probably about 11 years. And I was just told there's nothing wrong with me. Even though my B12 level was low, I was just told to eat more red meat and more animal products, and then I'd be fine. But over the years, it kind of peaked and troughed and was never really dealt with. I then ended up asking for another B12 test, which said that I was ridiculously low, well below the 200 that you should have as a minimum. And so I said, well, clearly I need to be treated. I researched a lot about fatigue and B12, and I had all the classic symptoms. And yeah, I started B12 injections. Also realised that at the time some of my symptoms were connected to gluten. I stopped gluten and that seemed to make a difference to my symptoms. So I stopped gluten, and then COVID happened. I didn't get COVID until like a year into it, so maybe 21. And that's when the fatigue really hit. It made it worse. And I'd had a really bad chest infection the winter before COVID started in 2019, and that ended up being a catalyst for really bad fatigue. And obviously studies now are actually happening because of long COVID, but I think the general consensus is that chronic fatigue is potentially from a virus. It's like a post-viral fatigue that just occurs. I'm not sure entirely why, but some new research is suggesting that it's a change in your brain and your reaction to things. So it's like a chemical reaction that you have about pain, about fatigue and muscle ache. So your body thinks it's more aching more than it is. Something along those lines. There's new research. I should get up to date on that. But yeah, generally when I got COVID in 2021, it escalated my fatigue, and I already had chronic fatigue, but that kind of made it more obvious. And so I went to the doctor and got diagnosed with chronic fatigue syndrome. And then I went on to some support groups. I did the NHS support programme, which I found really helpful. Lots of the stuff I was already doing because I was fully aware that I had chronic fatigue. Even though I hadn't had the diagnosis, I just knew that that's what that was. It was about strategically working out how much energy I had and how much I could use within a day, and then working out which things were fatiguing to me and then which things weren't. But essentially chronic fatigue is excessive fatigue. So it's just always waking up tired, which I've done since I was a teenager. That is a long-term thing that I have been dealing with. So it is what it is. There's not an awful lot I can do about it, but because unfortunately I don't get GPs that want to investigate, so I have no idea why I've got it. Anybody wants to investigate for me? So yeah, I have chronic fatigue, and it's definitely better than when I first was diagnosed. That was quite a turning point for me. The main thing was just understanding where my body is at. Like, I'm okay to work, but I did have to drop down my hours. I used to be full-time. And then on first diagnosing, I went down to 4 days, and then after another year, or 2 years, I then went down to 3 days. So I'm on 3 days a week now because I physically can't do teaching any more days than what I am. It's too it's overstimulating being in a school, especially if you're in one that doesn't always give you full support. So it's an ongoing daily battle. So there's certain things that I do to make it easier to manage, and one of the main things that I had to do was learn to let go of my past self. So I was very active before. I used to be busy all the time, like annoyingly busy, always wanting to go and do something. I had to accept that that wasn't the case anymore. I can't just do what I want when I want. That is not how my body works. I just need to know what my limit is now and start building on it. For me, I manage it by utilising my days off. They are essentially rest days as much as they can be. Thursday is usually very much a rest day, little bit of admin day, because that's about all I can physically manage. I find admin a little bit easier personally. It doesn't feel like it's such a demand on my brain because I've always done admin work and I find that really easy. It's just something that works well with my brain. It doesn't feel as though it's an onerous task. I tend to make sure I have rest days, and one of the key things that I got from the chronic fatigue course that I did with the NHS was learning about pillars of rest, knowing what my limits are and knowing how to schedule in rest periods on a regular basis, which I wasn't doing before. And that is part of the reason why I struggle with teaching at the minute, is because there is no opportunity for rest throughout the school day. Break duty, you're always on. Lunch, you can never really have lunch fully. You can't have it slowly, you can't eat it carefully. It is very much a you're still working kind of vibe. Generally, there's a few things that make my life that little bit easier. So like makeup, that's the same routine every day. There's no thinking involved because I do product in a set order and it doesn't change other than maybe a different colour eyeshadow. So there's no thinking involved. There's a really simple routine, and automated routines are like golden for me. That makes life less complicated. I don't have to think. I don't have to worry about what to do, and so simplifying everything means that I can get things done without thinking. So another way that I utilise routines is having a really consistent morning routine and bedtime routine. So morning routine always includes brushing teeth first, because otherwise I'll forget. And if I forget, because that's one of the main things from chronic fatigue is memory loss and fumbling words, etc. Like my brain doesn't function quite the same as everybody else's, and it is quite noticeable, although it does seem to be easing over recent months. I do seem to feel a little bit more with it. But yeah, my routine is really basic. It's teeth, it's makeup, it's get dressed, and then it's breakfast. I don't have much else to do and prep in the morning because I try and prep at night or I batch cook. So my evening routine is including a tidy up, but it's a very quick tidy. It's all dishes need to be in the dishwasher or by the sink ready to wash. And so there's no like mess when I come down in the morning, and lunch is already pre-made. So that's another thing that really helps me is batch cooking. I batch cook soup or jack potato. I reheat at work, so I don't need a microwave at home, which helps with my clearing of the clutter in the kitchen. So I batch cook soups or enchiladas and things like that, and then I just reheat them at work. It's really easy. I tend to do it as a meal. I'll make enchiladas and then I'll make a big enough batch for dinner and for lunches. So I do make quite a bit, but it does make life so much easier, and I know then that I'm eating healthily, because that's one of the key things that I know I need to do with chronic fatigue is eat healthy. So batch cooking really helps with that. I also do meal planning. I meal plan exactly what I'm going to have, and so there are lots of quick meals. Stir fry, great quick meal, doesn't take long to make at all. It takes maximum 10-15 minutes. It's really easy, and I know that it's really healthy. I don't put much oil, but it is packed full of veg and some noodles as well on the side. So it's really easy to make, no thinking involved. it's shove it in a pan kind of situation. But it's still good for me. Enchiladas is another one that I really love. Anything that's packed full of extra lentils, beans, veg, I can just know that I'm then eating healthily. I do find having a cooked lunch gives me enough energy throughout the day. Quite often I'll have 2 cooked meals a day. So I'll have a cereal or toast for breakfast and some fruit and a yogurt maybe. Then lunch is always cooked lunch, and then dinner is usually cooked as well. That's just the way that I manage to get enough energy, to be honest, especially when I'm at school. It's a high energy day, so it just helps me manage that one. And I do find that it just generally makes things easier, because I just feel like I'm getting more of the right stuff in my body. Another thing that I've done, which I've had to utilise my good energy days for, is declutter. I don't have very much in my home because it makes it easier to manage, and I have less to clean and tidy. And even if I do have to clean and tidy, it's a 2-second job, like clearing the windowsills. Quick wipe, there's nothing on there, maybe the odd flower, but there's nothing really around to make it difficult to clean, so I'm more likely to clean it because it's a quick job. And I have everything in really organised systems. So like on my computer I organise things in folders, and in the home I've got baskets or boxes for things, just so that they're easy to throw in and then I don't have to think about it. I've got all my hairstyling tools under my desk in a basket because it's easy to throw things back in, so I always then put it away. It just means that I can get through each day without it becoming cluttered or messy or feeling like I have to tidy up after myself, because it's so easy to do. So I highly recommend start decluttering, and if you can't do it in one go, which if you've got chronic fatigue you're not really going to be able to do that, which is precisely why I came up with the little acts of decluttering. That's how I went around my home. I did one little area at a time. So if you want to have some inspiration, I share that on my social media channel as well, a daily act of decluttering for you to focus on and work through, just so that you're still chipping away but not having to feel the pressure of doing it all. If you've enjoyed this video so far, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and press subscribe if you want to see more videos about decluttering, minimalism and my no spend year, and obviously a bit of self-care as well. Any like or comment or share really makes a difference to how much this video is seen, so do always take the time to click in and have a little watch, because it will help me get seen by the people that do really want to see it. I've also been working on reducing down my wardrobe. Making decisions about clothing can be quite tough, so it's almost like I imagine a capsule wardrobe. So I have like essentially a capsule wardrobe for work. There's certain things that I will choose from, and that is my work wardrobe, and that works really well for me. And then outside of that, that gives me freedom then to choose depending on the weather, but there's not loads in my wardrobe to choose from, so it makes it easier to make the decisions. So think about having key pieces that work with different items, that mix and match well, and have some key colour palettes that you're working from, so that it's not complicated to put things together. Essentially, you're trying to reduce decision making. I do find that decision making is my big fatigue, and exercise is also a big fatigue one for me, but I try and do small amounts of exercise but regularly. So I will either do stretches or I will do a gentle walk. Even if it's only a walk around the block, I will try and do something so that I have got some steps in some way. If it's a work day, I already know that I am doing lots of walking up and down the corridors at school, so I don't need to have a walk that day because that is already catered for. I'm not going to be harsh on myself and try and get myself to do extra. I already know that I'm doing lots of walking and that is enough for me, and quite often I do PE as well at school, so I've already got those elements of exercise within my day. Another thing that's been really key is narrowing down my friendships. I have a really core selection of friends and family that I speak to regularly, and they are absolutely my cheerleaders, and I've only got people that are fully my cheerleaders in my group, because otherwise it's going to drain me of energy if I'm thinking about the negatives and the negatives over the positives in my daily life. They understand my condition. They are, well, I don't need them to be sympathetic. They are sympathetic, but they don't need to be. They just need to be understanding of it and accepting of it. So sometimes if I say, can we meet up and do something, if I know that it's a fatigue kind of period and I'm struggling, then it'd be more of a coffee catch up than a walk, but I'll try and do walks if I can. So they're quite accommodating with that. But also they know if I say that I'm tired and I'm struggling, that is not just a normal everyday complaint, that is me at my full max. So if I say that, they know that I'm needing a little bit extra from them at that particular time. And I always like to check in, and friendships are really important for having that positivity and being that support network that you're going to need on a daily basis. That's going to get you through, that's your motivator. They are your cheerleaders, they are going to be there through the ups and downs, and yeah, they need to be the right people. The most important thing that I have not said yet, saving the best till last, is about reducing stress. Stress is a huge fatigue, especially if you're suffering from chronic fatigue. So you need to look at reducing stress. That was something that came up on my support group, is about stress, what you can control and what you can't. So essentially you've got this circle. This is your sphere of control. Anything that you can control is inside your circle. Anything that you can't control is outside. If it's outside of your control and there's nothing you can do about it, there is no point in stressing about it. It's essentially something that you can't impact on, something that you can't change, not necessarily change. So is it worth that worry? Is it worth that stress? So essentially you need to let go of that. That is something that is not worth worried about. Anything that's inside your sphere of control, they are things that you can absolutely change. So although you might be worried about them, there are things that you can do that can change the situation, that can make it better or improve it or make it different. So you need to look at the things that you can change. Those are the things that you should have a small amount of worry for. But again, is it worth having big worries about something that is essentially a small worry? Try and put things into perspective about, no, is it going to immediately change overnight? No. So do I need to continuously think about it every single day, or should I just have that moment, park that emotion and just get on with working towards the change so that it doesn't feel like it's going on forever? Because stress is something that hugely impacts your body and impacts your mind. And if you're thinking about chronic fatigue as being sending signals that are incorrect, you always need to retrain your brain, and you can't do that under stress conditions. You can't make clear decisions. If you're stressed, you can't make the right progress that you're going to want to make. You're not going to be able to make those steps to improve your condition if you are in the mindset of everything is negative and everything is difficult. Whilst it can be, and it is, worrying about that and stressing about that doesn't change it. Actions do. So look at the actions that you can take to make it slightly easier, to make it more gentle on you, to change your mindset. Positivity is absolutely key, and anything positive that you can find in your day by practicing gratitude is really going to help you see the little things that are just as important, that are just as valuable, and that are going to get you through your daily life. Try not to worry about those things that don't matter. Think positively, find the best in things, and know that it's temporary and you can get through this, and you've got to have hope. It's absolutely possible to recover from chronic fatigue. Whilst it doesn't feel like it at the time, and it can go on for years, there are absolutely stories of recovery, and it is doable. There's just lots to do, and it's a process. I hope you've enjoyed this video. Don't forget to comment below if you've got any other strategies that you find really helpful for daily life with fatigue, and let's see if we can support one another. I should be back for more videos soon. Take care. Bye.